Yes, welcome everyone here to the Smash Sports Show right here on Smash FM, right here on a Tuesday here in Melbourne. Of course, let's head up to the Sunshine State and, of course, heading to Aspley, in particular in Brisbane, northern suburbs. And, of course, speaking with the Hornets, who'll be hoping this year in 2024 they could go one step better than the grand final appearance last season. And, of course, we've got two very special guests joining us right now to tell us a bit about the pre-season for the Hornets. Thanks both for joining us.
Thanks for having
No
us.
worries. Thanks for having us.
No worries. Well, get both of you to introduce yourselves and what position both of you are hoping to play in 2024.
Well, I'm Lucy. And I mean, I've been with Aspley since 2017. And I've always played down back. So this year I am hoping to stay in my position as fullback. So yeah, let's hope for that.
My name's Emma. People call me Pity. I joined Aspley last year and always played sort of halfback role. So fingers crossed I can stay as a halfback, even though I think maybe sometimes I might get a run through the midfield, which is always fun. But yeah, mainly halfback.
Your first game is in 2-3 weeks' time now, which has actually come pretty quickly. Which should be a home game at Aspley Oval against UQ. How's the preparations been like during the pre-season in the lead up to round one in 3 weeks?
I think the preparation has been fantastic. I think we have taken it probably to another level, following on from last year. As you said just before, like hopefully the goal is to make it one step further than last year, taking the chocolates away. So I think our preseason has definitely shown that. We've had an increase over all areas, and we've had a few newcomers to the club, which has really elevated the level that we were able to train and commit to. So I think when you look at all those elements, I think there's nothing but good signs for the future. So hopefully we can take that into round one. Especially that it's a home game. I think that really helps kick our season off because we love playing at home. So yeah, all things looking up from my reports. So
Yeah, I agree. We had a good preseason camp and we played a little intra-club match, which really demonstrated what the new players are bringing into our team. And then yeah, taking away what we want to get through the season, obviously one step further. I have been around for a while, and last year was our first time we ever made finals. So making the grand final was honestly a win in probably a few of our books. And yeah, so we would love to obviously get one step further. With UQ being our first game, it's a bit of a rivalry as Luke, our coach, did originally come from there. So it's always a nice fun game. And we have a few girls that also used to play at UQ. So it's going to be a nice, tough competition, I think, for round one.
Played in the grand final last year. You played Bon Uni at the new home for the Lions at Brian Holmes Arena there at down in South Brisbane. How cool was it to walk out on the ground to, I guess, the brand spanking new stadium?
It's a pretty special experience, I guess. It's starting to grow a reputation, that field, for some pretty special games. Hopefully we can keep that going as Queensland sort of really hallmark that field for a quality finals field. And having the Lions sort of pass through there and multiple AFLW clubs, it adds to the level of competitiveness that you get to walk out on. So grand final last year, actually drew quite a crowd because of the arena, because of the grandstand and the area that it's been built in. I think it's helped elevate the atmosphere that we get to walk out in, drawing more of a crowd, I'm actually not sure if it was a ticketed event last year, but being like a fenced in, sort of like an event that people have to sort of like go to, it actually helps create the hype when you walk out there. So I felt pretty special, especially walking out in those colours for the first time as a club, even making finals. So that was very special as a whole. And then to have the crowd and the sense of hype surrounding it, I think it just added to it. So yeah, it was pretty special.
Yeah, like I 100% agree with everything that Pitty said. It also was amazing experience, just like the amount of fans that, well, not fans, family and friends that were there. Our men's team also had went down to watch us there as well. So actually having a bit of a crowd, there was lots of noise. To actually have an atmosphere at a game that we don't usually would get. With it being a neutral ground as well, with us all Bond not actually being playing there yet, really just kind of made it a equal sort of competition. Even though we did unfortunately lose, but yeah, it was just a surreal experience, and hopefully it would be nice if we could even just get around at that ground, just so we, whatever teams make the grand final this year, has a bit of experience to play on that field before potentially making finals on that field.
Nice and I guess more professional to play that ground compared to the other previous seasons or most of the seasons previously that was played at Yeronga's home ground.
Yeah, absolutely. Like the just basic things like the sheds that we get, the facilities that we get access to, the way we walk up through a grandstand, for a lot of girls that haven't experienced much like that, it's a very big contrast. Like Yeronga is very local club, and it has so many pros and positives for itself, but going to a Brighton Homes arena and having the grandstand and walking up, having like pretty much tunnels, to walk up through, you really you get a sense of professionalism and sort of women's football in Queensland taking it to the next level and being able to provide those areas and facilities and fields and support to actually really create a sense of professionalism and just elevating the level that we get to experience as local leagues here.
Yeah, I mean, when we're playing out there, we've got these massive screens that are on either side of the field, and we could see the score, and see the time. Like Yeronga obviously has one of those, but when you go to the Gabba and watch a game, it just made us feel like we were actually playing a real footy game, like grand final, with the big screens up above our heads. It was a bit kind of covered so that any noise would make a great atmosphere. And to be able to go into, I don't know what it was, like the big shed where we got to do the warm up was also just unreal, because it felt like you were actually at, the cage, like actually at a stadium to be able to warm up in, instead of just going to the backfield. And so if that makes sense.
UQ is your opponents in 3 weeks' time. Mentioned it's going to be a bit of a rivalry game. How strange will it be to play the first game? And obviously, normally you probably would love to have the rematch, the grand final rematch in the first game, and try to get back at Bond Uni. But you're playing a team that who also have won the previous premierships prior to that. Tell us how good will it be, and hopefully to try to beat them again this time around as well.
UQ, I think I've played there a couple of years ago as well. And I know, like LT was saying, like there is a handful of girls that have come across, and now our head coach has come from UQ as well. So those roots they'll always stay there. We'll always have that rivalry. I do remember our last game at their home field being quite heated, quite intense. So I think to be able to go out there with a strong game plan and a strong united front, I think really allows us to take a stand and shows the competition, not just UQ, but also just the whole competition where we're coming in at this year. Like our foundation is going to elevate. We're going to be coming in at another level, and it's great that we get to have our first game at home and against a low-key rival like UQ. A lot of history there with some of the girls and the coach. So I think it'll be a really good way to crack off our season.
Yeah, because I think we did go down in a game against them last year and also win one. So because we did have a very successful season all round against the teams, and having lost a game to UQ and winning one, I think coming into round one, it will really set the standard for us, and will just show what the competition will be like for both us and UQ. So yeah. be interesting.
How did both of you get involved in footy and why did you choose it? And then the second part of that question, what does the sport of football mean to both of you now, especially playing for Aspley?
AFL, I used to play soccer. So I used to be a soccer girl. And then I had a friend take me down to AFL training. And, I wasn't really a big fan of AFL at the start. I didn't get it. It had no structure. It made no sense to me. Like it was like an around field, like you could kick it anyway, you could handball. It didn't really make any sense. So I wasn't really vibing it. But then I guess I got a few trainings under my belt. I played a couple of games and I actually just really started to fall in love with it. I was like, this is the sport for me. That was probably 2015. Geez. Yeah. So probably going on like 9 years ago, really showing my age here. So, but yeah, so I started at Cooperoo, and my history there, I was fortunate enough to come into a team that had the likes of your Sally Young, your Emma Zilkes, Ellie Andersons. Like I played with those girls and I was really fortunate to learn from those girls how to play the game of football. And I, like I said, really enjoyed it. I had an opportunity to play for the Lions, which was really awesome. So I played my first 2 AFLW seasons with the Lions. And then I followed David Lake down to the Gold Coast Suns, and I spent 3 years down there. And in that whole time, I just sort of kept developing and kept learning and kept sort of like finding AFL more and more intriguing and finding out how to pick apart the opposition and improve my game as well. And then, so I guess AFL to me, it's been like quite a chunk of my past now, about 8 years, like I said, and it's provided a lot of consistency. It's provided a lot of friends, our community through a few clubs that I've been to, and it's also helped me develop a lot of like just personal attributes in my life. Like I take like what I learned from football, the discipline, the commitment, and I put it towards my own life, especially when I was younger. And coming to Aspley, like I loved coming to Aspley last year because was able to help grow a foundation team. I was lucky enough to be able to support them and help Aspley make their first lot of finals, and it was really special being a part of that. And I'm really fortunate to have had the team that we had last year because everyone was so welcoming and open. And this year, I think everyone's still the same, but they have a little bit of hurt from last year, which you can always use. But then seeing the young girls sort of develop and come through and show their leadership skills, but also their commitment to the sport. And you can see in their eyes now that they want to go the whole way. Yet, maybe a couple of years ago, Aspley really didn't maybe see that in their future. And I'm really fortunate that we were able to create that and start that last year. And hopefully we can go another level this year. So
For me, so I did grow up in a small country town, about 4 hours north, and so I didn't have any interest in AFL. It was a very big NRL sort of country town, but I also did play soccer over at Bundaberg. When I moved to Gayndah for my high schooling years, we had an AFL coordinator come from Harvey Bay. I'll give him a shout out. His name's Kieran. He came out to my school and we just did some AFL, like what they would do for like this kind of the curriculum for your school. And we all absolutely hated it. We thought it was the worst thing ever. What was this football? Like the way we were kicking it, just anything like that was just so strange for everyone. And he approached me and my best friend at the time at school and asked us if we wanted to play for, back then was the Central Coast Cobras. So that consisted of pretty much all the way up to Gladstone and Rocky and then the whole of Wide Bay. And that carnival was going to take place in Cairns. And the only reason why I said yes was because I was born in Cairns. And I was like, yeah, I'll go up to Cairns and play this weird sport. So we went up in a bus, which took a very long time. Funny story, we broke down just outside of Rockhampton. And I think we were broken down outside of Rockhampton for, I'm going to say 5 hours. because it just took someone so long. We had two little mini bus vans, and it took someone so long to come and fix this van that we were in the middle of nowhere. We walked down to all this bushland, and someone like the house across the road came and brought us like a carton of Cokes just so we could stay a bit hydrated. And then they fixed that van, and unfortunately, because we were kept going in the other van, that one also battery died. Um, so we were meant, anyway, we were back on the road after all that, and we got to Airlie Beach where we were meant to stay overnight, but we got there, I'm going to say like 2 a.m. And we were the first game against Capricornia in Cairns. So we basically had to stop at Airlie Beach, have a shower, get our footy gear on, get to Cairns, go straight on the field, and we just played straight away. And we actually won, which was unreal. So that was my first ever experience of AFL. That kind of like, I can't remember how many days it was over. But they didn't have any sort of Queensland-based teams, but they did name a merit team. And I was named in that merit team with like the people that you see today, like Taylor Harris. We were all in that merit team. And so I didn't play any more footy then. And then when I was in grade 12, so in 2014, I did the same thing. But by then we had made a wide bay team. The sport had grown a little bit, so we could have a bit more teams in that comp. So I was the captain of the wide bay team. And yeah, but then we made there was actually a Queensland team heading over to, let's say it was Canberra first. And then the following year was in Perth. So that's how I got into footy. When I graduated school, I had a choice if I wanted to play soccer or AFL, and I did choose to move to Brisbane to play AFL, because I knew Taylor, she was playing at Zilmere, and I started my first 2 years at Zilmere, and then I moved across to Aspley in 2017, where we had to start in the Div 1 league, and we were undefeated all season until we went out in straight sets.
That's right.
But we had to win that premiership to go into QAFL, so we did that in 2018. Going into the QAFL the following year was super tough because we kind of had the same Div 1 team where all the other QAFL teams, they had all the superstars that you see now in the Lions and the Suns team. So it was really hard going back every week, getting flogged every single week, especially being fullback. Very tough games. And I think that's why, yeah, a few kinks in the back of my neck. I think that's why I really enjoy playing footy and especially Aspley, because to get through that period of time where we were getting flogged every single week, the same girls going back to training, we fought hard. The mental toughness that we had to go through to just be like, now we're playing Yeronga, and we know they're going to have Emily Bates, they're going to have all these players that we have to try and dominate. And then the next week it was Cooper Russo, it was Emma Zilks, it was Ali Anderson, it was all those players. And to finally last year to make the grand final was surreal. So when we did beat Southport, so that was the first time we beat Southport to get in the grand final. That honestly felt like a grand final to me. The tears were gushing out of my face because it was just like, it was just unreal. So, but being from a country town and not knowing anyone apart from a few footy girls my age, footy has really brought some of my closest friends. Like P and I are quite close, and the girls, other girls in my team, like that's who I'm going to go out for coffee with, and that's who I go out for dinner. And it's just, yeah, I just think footy really creates a community, especially when you're not originally from here and you're trying to find your friends, I guess. I actually did during the COVID year, I did try and have an opportunity to go to, I went to Melbourne. I went to uni and I played a lot of the uni games, and a Casey coach down there asked me to come down and play for Casey, and I went down and I tried out for Geelong, Essendon and Casey, and I stuck to Casey, and that's where I also trained on with the Melbourne Demons AFLW team, which was unreal. But yeah, then COVID happened, so it was a really unfortunate time. But yeah, anyway, we came back and I came back to Aspley. So I did have a year off at Aspley, but yeah, I came straight back to them.
What have both you learnt from each other on and off the field?
Oh, Biddy is an unreal speaker. Like I can't wait for her to be our captain this year. I just think she's such a big role model for not only myself but every single person in our football team. It's amazing because she plays next to me on the field too, so I get the the close communication from her. But if you ever have any problems, unfortunately, we all go to Pity because she's such an easy person to talk to, and she's so easygoing. If I miss a kick or if it's our full forward kicks a goal on me, she's the first person to pick me up, or Morgan Lanigan, of course. And yeah, so she's an amazing person.
Oh, shucks, LT, that's so sweet. Um, LT, like you want to talk about a hard road, like LT's kind of had it. Like for her to turn up week in, week out and perform the way she does. The reason why I'm so relaxed in the halfback line is because I have her behind me commanding everything. We call her the commander in chief down there because she's at the back and I feel so safe. That's why I feel so relaxed, LT. It's because you're there. The game that you weren't there, you should have saw me. But honestly, she's a great leader. Like LT, a great leader, great speaker. You're coming into your own. You also have you have a balance of fun and mates, but also you're not afraid to run through someone if the time calls for it. So I know that I can trust her. I learn a lot from her every week of how to tackle a game, how to go into a game and just whether your or opponent's like 3 foot taller than you or a little speedster, she somehow still dominates them. And I'm not sure what she does yet. I'm still trying to figure that out. But I never felt so safe in a game having her behind me. So it's really it's comforting to know that she's my fullback back there, mopping up everything that gets through. So love ya.
Made me cry.
I have to ask you this now. Obviously, you've won a premiership with UQ in the QAFL. You also won at Cooperoo, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yep.
Holy, the bragging.
Now, obviously, we're hoping that you're going to win your third premiership. Premiership in your third club. Hopefully with Aspley. But which of the other premierships, the Cooperoo or UQ, is more special to you?
I mean, Cooperoo, because Cooperoo is my first club. Cooperoo holds a lot of the early Emma years. I learned a lot of not only how to play the game, but I learned a lot of who I am as a player through there. I learned a lot of my foundations from there. Like I said, I was lucky enough to come into the year that had the likes of your big stars now, your Emma Zilkis, your Ellie Andersons, even the Sally Young. She is such a dominant force on the football field. And I was fortunate enough to be a part of that and learn my foundations there. So Cooperoo has a special place in my heart. So that one really probably rings louder. UQ was fun. UQ was special in its own way, but I think Cooperoo hits a bit deeper until Aspley.
Yeah. Yes. Correct. Yeah. Yeah. I was waiting for you to say that last bit.
Yeah.
Now, Lucy, now you mentioned about that amazing story about going up to Cairns, and obviously had that. Well, obviously, your team broke down 2 buses on the way up there, and then you went there and won the first game against of course, been in the White Bay area myself. For a White Bay person, we obviously hate the Capricornia. So we how good was it to beat them? Because they had the rest. You had to have a very quick nap and then obviously get ready to go and actually won the game. How satisfying was that?
Oh, I mean, I we didn't even get the rundown of the rules. So I have no idea like what was going on. So every mark back then that I took, I just ran. Or like I didn't know the distance between of getting a mark, had to make sure I was handballing it. like just when it's your very first game, like you didn't have an opportunity to warm up. We didn't have anything like that. We didn't have a coach prep us. It was just in the bus being like, okay, these are our positions. Just go there. We'll talk at quarter time. Like, so to just go out, I think we're all so awake because we didn't really have an opportunity to go to sleep. Um, we were just so buzzed that we just took it out on the field and none of us knew what we were doing. I mean, there were a few girls there were a few girls that knew how to play. But a majority of, I would say, the Wide Bay girls had no idea what was going on. And yeah, to come out and beat potentially a team that might have known how to play and had a chance to warm up was a pretty good feeling. And well, I don't think we won many games after that, but that's not the point. Like going against, I think Brisbane was just one full team and Gold Coast is one full team and Sunny Coast. And then you've got the whole coast and then Capricornia. So, and Cairns, I think also was a team. So yeah, it was just hilarious, really. That's hilarious in a nutshell. Great first time experience of AFL.
Sorry, Lucy, I need to ask you that. After winning the game, did you have another game after that? And if you didn't, how good was the sleep that night?
We did have to play, well, we had a break so we could actually have something to eat. So we did get a break and then we did play another game and then we could go and relax. The shower was unreal. And to be able to lay in a bed just because it took so long. We left early in the morning to get to Ellie Beach at 2 a.m. straight onto the field. So it was just, we're awake basically for 24 hours, longer than that. So getting back to the hotel, we all just wanted to lay down. And they did postpone like the team dinner a bit later and the team meetings and things like that at our hotel. So yeah, it was very fun.
Oh, that is the best story, Lisa. Sorry, I had to ask those two questions. That was the best story I've ever had. Let's continue the lighthearted theme now to your teammates there at Aspley, which is who had the most embarrassing moment last season or during the preseason this year?
Elise?
Oh, all the time. Elise just
Yeah.
has.
I was like, did she?
Well, where do you start?
Random people?
The coaches will explain a drill and like she'll just ask about it, what they just said. But I mean, I'm trying to think of like a like a scenario that might
Like an
have
actual
happened.
moment? I mean, I do know on the weekend, on our preseason game, Jess Davy got her pants like dacked, like down to the ankles dacked. Like, like she was like, she just talked about how she might not be putting like, she was talking about like having skins under, just, just in case you get dacked. And, it just happened to her. So I did see that. That was pretty funny. But as for embarrassing from last year, I don't know. Hey, like nothing's coming to my memory. Like, I don't know.
Who's the comedian, the best singer, and best dancer on the team?
Comedian. Oh, you're looking at her. LT. Right there.
Not intentionally funny though. It just happens.
It's so natural. Just like you can't help it.
I find Span pretty hilarious and a bit of a
Oh
comedian as
yeah.
well.
Spencer has those ones where it makes you think, and then you're like, oh, that was hilarious. Like she's smart. She's a smart, funny girl. Like she really puts effort into her jokes. Andrew's a bit of a cracker.
Yeah, she is a cracker. I was just thinking about I wasn't at the game. We had a pracky match last week, the weekend before at Bond Uni. And Lane apparently in the second game, the siren went. But because it was her first ever game, she didn't realize that she had to go
Yeah.
in and shake hands. So she was walking back to the goal square. So she did get a fine for that. For the final siren went, and yeah, she went back to the goal square.
She would have had to have been like 40 meters away by herself.
Yeah,
No
there's
opponent.
photos of her just by herself, and then girls
She is
shaking
just
hands.
separated from everyone. Like there
That
is
was
no one
probably up
around
there,
her.
and that was recent.
Yeah.
Can't even think about the fines that we give out. Need the powerful. Yeah, Holly O's quite funny too. She's just a young larrikin.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean we do give out fines each month, so Maybe you'll have to sit into one of our training sessions and watch the fines be released.
Yeah.
All the
Oh,
embarrassing things that we do.
okay. Well, you prompted me with my next question about the fires, so you pretty much answered it. So who's got the most fires so far up to this point, even though the season hasn't started yet?
Elise.
Elise.
Yeah. Like she is like I didn't even know. And what? Double digits, like $20, isn't it? Up to there, minimum
Yeah.
now.
She just keeps
Very
parking in the
funny.
disabled spot, or she parks on the garden. Like she speeds to the car park. Everyone is watching and everyone has their phones. If you do something wrong, we're on to you.
We're on
Um,
on to you. Was she the one nearly running over people, or was that someone
No,
else?
that was EDM. So EDM,
Oh, that was
she
EDM. Yeah, our
we
car park's pretty wild, so just beware when you
yeah,
just come on in. It's pretty hot in there.
EDM has a reversing camera, and one of our strength and conditioning coaches was walking behind, not thinking that she was actually going to reverse, and she was reversing, and I was like, "Big O, I think you're about to get run over. Big O, move!" And then he had to skip, and yeah, EDM nearly ran him over with the reversing camera right on her dash. So the car park's dangerous. I don't recommend parking in it.
Yeah, and walk by yourself at night.
Okay.
Thanks to street parking.
Okay. Just don't park at the ground by the sounds of that. Now, do either of you have a pre-game superstition or ritual?
No, I'm not, but I'm pretty sure LT you do, don't you?
So funny enough, I was speaking to Gabs and Morgs before this, and they're like, "Don't tell them this." But anyway, all the nutritionists out there can just leave this interview now because I personally don't eat before a game. I'll have a banana and a Gatorade,
Uh-huh.
and that's about it. So when I was back at school, I think maybe grade 10, I'd say, I used to do a lot of swimming. And I went to a meet in Billawheeler, and my dad decided to take me to Macca's before my swim meet, and I got hotcakes. And just being a country girl, like I never have Macca's, so obviously I was going to have hotcakes before all of my races.
Double
Um,
zero
I,
butter.
I had my first race, and I got out of the pool, and terrible time, no PB, no win, and I went straight to the bathroom, and it came all the way. It came up, and I was ill. So ever since that day, I have never eaten before a game, like a meal. It has to be a banana or any sort of fruit and a Gatorade. Um, and yeah, so that's probably mine.
Is that a
But yes, I
superstition
know
or
it
is
is
that
bad.
just a fear? Like, that's a child. That's trauma. That's trauma. That's what that is.
Yeah, it's because I don't want to go through that again. And I'm
Yeah.
and in AFL, the game goes a lot longer than 4 swimming races.
Yes.
So
True.
And you're getting hit pretty hard.
yeah. So we have our times actually were released today, and a lot of our games are at 2 o'clock. So instead of 4:45, so the 4:45 is a pretty long wait until I could eat, which realistically would be about 6:45. But now I only have to wait till 4 o'clock before I can have my first meal of the day. So
Yay.
I'm going to try and entice you to eat before your game and see if that works.
everyone eats. People are eating like full Subways, or they're just eating a whole meal, and I'm just like, how are you doing that? It just, yeah, it makes my tummy curdle just thinking about other people eating before a game.
Here's for this last one, which is, will be your advice to people that should get involved in footy, especially out there in Brisbane's northern suburbs?
Yeah. Do we have an Oz Kick program, don't we, LT?
Yeah, so we do have we've had an Auskick program. When I first moved to Brisbane, I did work for AFL Queensland. And the Aspley Hornets have had a Auskick program that runs on a Friday night and a Saturday morning, which the women volunteer to do the Friday night and the men's team do the Saturday morning. When I first started that, however many years ago, I would get 40, 50 kids on a Friday night. This year we're getting about 120 kids come down just on the Friday night, and however many on the Saturday. But we also have our junior program that both includes the girls and the boys. So I think there are a lot of opportunities to play footy at Aspley. As soon as like the under-17 girls, we have a few girls that played in the under-17s come up to our squad. So there's always that pathway provided at Aspley, and also in the men as well. As soon as they click over that age, they can have the opportunity to play in the senior sides.
And hopefully, as the seniors do better, and hopefully we can continue to grow a really good foundation, only trickle down and make the pathway stronger for Aspley, and grow a really tight-knit community down there. So like LT said, we have a strong Auskick program Friday, Saturdays. It's really welcoming, and hopefully we can keep getting that bigger and more consistent. So
yeah, and like having women's and men going to those Auskick games, it's not just AFL people working at those Auskicks, it's actual girls who play in the footy team and actual men who play in the men's team as well. And like the under-17s and under-13, under-15s also come down when they can to just have a little kick with the kids. So I think that also gets a good perspective of the one club that we're trying to be, and get everyone involved.
Well, both of you, thank you so much for getting up some of your time to join us. I know we've got a little bit over time to on this interview, but thank you so much for getting up some of your time. Best of luck in your first home game against UQ. They're at Aspley Oval, and let's hope you get off with a win against your rivals, UQ, in about 3 weeks' time.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you very much.
No worries. And of course, if you want to get involved with the mighty Aspley Hornets, of course, hoping to go one step better in 2024. Of course, we'll put all the details up on how you can get involved in one of the most successful clubs up there in Queensland. There's more on the Smash Sports Show right after this. Don't go away here on the 10th year celebration.